Welcome to Creating Buzz, an A2 podcast, where we're going to be diving into the world of content marketing, commerce, and all things digital. We'll be talking to the people who are actually making it happen every day, from brand builders to measurement partners. You'll hear the real insights from the inside world of retail media. So be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Hi, and welcome to A2 Influence's new podcast, Creating Buzz. We're going to be talking about everything shopper marketing and retail media, and talking to some of the most interesting people in the industry. But like everything that we do on social, we're going to make sure that it's short and engaging and not to get you guys too bored. So today, I'm really excited. We have our guest, Rick Shuman, here. Rick has a long history of working within the shopper and retail space. He started at Pep Promotions, worked at L'Oreal, Cow, Gray PR, and most recently, the director of omnichannel activations at Mondelez. We're really excited to have you here, Rick.
Hey, Rob. Super excited to be with you. Looking forward to chatting and going through a little bit of details on retail media.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, we're trying to keep this nice and tight. So I have some questions to ask for you. We're going to keep them kind of industry specific. And then at the end, we'll do something a little personal so people get to know Rick. You're a great guy, Rick, and people should know more about that of you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, looking forward to it. That sounds like a plan.
Awesome. So the first question I wanted to ask you, and I think for A2 Influence, being able to speak to a brand directly is really important as we work with a lot of retailers and shopper agencies. So we always have a ton of questions about how brands think about different things. So the first question I think, is on everyone's mind. I know AI and ChatGPT and what are those double hyphens that everyone's leaving in their emails that we know it's ChatGPT. But now, as we see AI and kind of the enormity of all of it and how it could basically change every industry and every company and every job that we work in, how do you think, I think about this when it comes down to new product innovation, where I imagine it's a lot of research, a lot of back and forth, a lot of, data, but also at the end of the day, I feel like it has to do with like taste and a person at the end going, hey, this feels good and this looks good.
Sure.
How do you think AI and ChatGPT will start affecting how new products are either created or promoted?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a great question. And I think there's a lot of ways, right? Like you said, I mean, there's kind of endless opportunities within AI to use this towards product development. I think one of the first places that comes to mind for me is rapid product development. Just the speed to market. Today manufacturers are creating kind of fake brands or fake products, right? And they're putting them in front of focus groups, whether that's in person or whether that's digitally. But that's still a time-intensive process, right? To understand what resonates with consumers. Now we're going to be able to do that so much faster, so many more iterations through AI. And I think, another layer to that is you're seeing companies like WPP, for example, my former employer, they've created kind of a walled garden for their AI solutions, right? So now I can feed it proprietary information that's not going to feed back into ChatGPT. I can put information about past product launches, competitive product launches, and just make this model so much smarter than I ever could have done in the past. I think when you start to see all of that potential, you can see the speed is just reduced to market. So yeah, I think that's one big area. I think that an interesting part of it's going to be, can AI really understand what consumers want when sometimes consumers don't know what they want, right? The question of how likely are you to buy this product is always asked. And consumers will tell you they're very likely to buy it. Then you launch the product and no one buys it. And so I think that'll be kind of the interesting piece. Can AI get to those deeper motivations where sometimes a person can't explain why they want something or what they want? So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting, just the massive amount of data that we'll be able to feed into AI to make product development faster and smarter.
Do you think that we'll be missing anything out of this, right? Like as we say, if I'm on ChatGPT and I say, create me a picture of this, and the absolutely amazing technology can generate something, there's always an extra hand, an extra ear. I know things like that will get better, but do you think, I feel like a lot of consumer products are about like kind of gut feeling, right?
Yeah.
I like the way that looks. I like the packaging. There's some piece of this that feels it has it's a consumer's decision.
Absolutely.
How do you think that fine line gets kind of balanced? Is it like what comes first? Is it the idea from AI? Is it the idea from the consumer? What's the chicken and the egg there?
I think it's a great question. And I think it could go both ways. My perspective is that it's going to start with insights or a new idea potentially from AI. that's going to take it to a place where maybe we have not yet thought through that level of detail, but it's going to still need the human touch. Like you said, it's going to need storytelling in a way that is just authentic to consumers, to shoppers. It's going to need that extra human touch to make sure that this product really resonates, that the story resonates. But AI is going to let us really quickly explore a bunch of spaces, narrow down into the 2 or 3 that are really interesting and exciting, and then start to build that out from a human perspective. So that's kind of the way I.
Yeah, like you guys have, maybe have a model that's a specific consumer, right? And run it by them and see their kind of thoughts and feelings. And maybe just like a really good tool to have in a brainstorm session, right?
Exactly. Like that's where I think of it, where it is today. It's not necessarily the final output, but it's a tool that's going to let you get there so much faster and explore spaces that maybe you, from a resource perspective, wouldn't have the time or the dollars to go after. So I think that's kind of the interesting angle to it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I just hope all of my outreach isn't going to an AI bot first, because yeah, I'm still pretty manual when it comes to my emails. Just to, you'll know it's me. Be short and sweet. All right, our next question. Rick, I know you've worked across a number of different retail media networks. A2 Influence works across a number of different retail media networks. We know that every one of them has kind of different offerings, different measurement tools, different process. So if there was one product offering measurement solution that it could just be standard across every RMN, what would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's a real challenge for someone that's in a role, a brand role, a role that's a national role across a lot
Mm-hmm.
of retailers. I think the one that comes to mind for me is ROAS, because ROAS is something that's so foundational. It's the core metric that we all look at, but it's not measured the same across retailers. We've got different attribution windows. We have different, whether it's last click, whether it's multi-touch. There's so many variables to it where you might from one vendor hear 5 times ROAS and another vendor 60 times ROAS. And you're just left trying to make some sense of this because no one believes we're getting 60 times our money. So it's hard to find that middle ground. So I think when we're looking at it, it feels like an apples to apples comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
I take my ROAS from Walmart or from Kroger or from Target and I compare them together. But when you start to peel back the layers, you understand they really are not one and the same. So to me, that's kind of the table stakes that I would say as an industry we would benefit from having standardized measurement, starting with ROAS.
Yeah, I mean, and different measurement partners have different point of sale feeds, and it does get definitely murky. So you're saying, hey, if we had a standard ROAS measurement across all of the shoppers, and let me ask you this, and I've had this question before, if things were more standardized across the RMNs, do you think brands would spend more?
Think it would be easier for us to go fight, us as shopper and commerce folks, to go fight for brand dollars and to prove that the dollars we're putting into retail are outperforming what the brand is doing nationally. Because I think that's kind of the fight that's ongoing internally is, hey, where do we split our mix of spend nationally versus where do we support individual retailers? And if those things are standardized, it helps us go speak the same language as the brand. So,
And then measure different campaigns against each other across retailers.
Absolutely. You touched on one other one too that I just would add to, like you touched on the fact that you guys work across a lot of retailers. One of the challenges with an individual retail media network is incrementality. They also will inflate incrementality because they don't know what's happening outside of their four walls. As you're speaking to partners that have a lot of different data sources, now I can start to understand how someone really shops across a lot of different channels because we know nobody shops at just.
Why don't you explain that? That you're basically measuring one retailer, but if people are buying these products, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to those specific retailers. But yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you take a product like at Mondelez, we sell Oreos, right? So Oreos, super high penetration product. Many people are buying it. Maybe I've been buying it for the last year at Walmart, and then I pop over and I buy it one time at Kroger. Well, now this for Kroger is an incremental shopper, right? We found a new Oreo buyer. Well, did you really? Right? It may be just a channel switching situation.
Got it.
I stopped at 7-Eleven on the way home and I bought a pack of Oreos. Does that mean I'm a new Oreo shopper? Not necessarily, but that retailer will count that as an incremental sale. And I think when we talk incrementality, we're really talking about new households, right? Not just one time someone came into this retailer and purchased. So, I think retailers, they're always going to inflate incrementality. But partners like you guys that see a little bit broader, you're going to have a benefit of actually understanding true incrementality, which is what brands are really trying to understand nationally.
Awesome. Yeah, and if there is a incrementality around Thin Mint Oreos in Jersey, you know where that bump came from.
You're the source.
It's really, we got to get my life
We got to
under
get you a
control.
box.
Those things are awesome. All right. Great question. Awesome. Well, thank you, Rick. I have another question here for you. We talk about new media channels all the time, new ways to get our to distribute content or products or, whatever it might be. What do you think for advertising is the most slept on channel? And I can speak from experience, sampling was something I did in the past. Just blown away at like the conversion metrics for that. Again, it's not something that is as widely used as some other tactics. Is there a specific tactic that you go, hey, I don't know if you want to do more or less of it, but you're always kind of like, wow, this performed really well and I didn't expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think there's two that come to mind for me. The first one is I've kind of been a traditional shopper marketer. In store has never really gotten kind of the respect that I felt it deserved. 80% of the sales are still going in store, but it feels kind of dusty and old and boring. It's displays and it's coupons and that's it. But there's a lot of folks trying to crack the nut of figuring out how do we deliver a better experience in store and how do we find ways to monetize that as well for retailers to give brands new opportunities to advertise. I think the other one, that we talk a lot about is from a shopper perspective, influencer, right? Because it's not necessarily been a legacy shopper tactic. And so, 10 years ago, folks weren't able to leverage it for one specific retailer the way that they are now. There's so many advancements in technology, right? Social becoming a commerce platform, retail data that we are now able to feed to make our programs much smarter, measurement and attribution. So, I think influencer from a shopper perspective, there's so much opportunity because the content that we're pumping out is so much more engaging. It's so much more exciting.
And that's something we say all the time, right? The shopper at Kroger is different than the shopper at Walmart. That's different at the shopper at Target. And making sure that content is personalized to them is where we see lots of success and engagement as well.
I think it's the next area that I think is a huge opportunity is content creation within shopper. So much of it has been just kind of repurposing what we've done nationally. And like you said, it doesn't hit the mark for that individual shopper of that retailer in this part of the country. So that's just such a huge opportunity. And I think a lot of the content that we as shopper marketers have put out in the past has just kind of been repurposed.
Pack shots.
Stale, pack shots, very promo driven. And it really kind of lacks where the rest of the world of content is going, which is much more lifestyle driven, showing people how they can actually really use these products.
Do you think, let's say not the hesitation, but maybe the slower ramp, the influencer, what do you think that might be with some brands? Is it, I know, by the way, everyone's using it, but it's not, there's still more money being spent on offsite tactics and stuff like that. Do you think it's maybe the workload or it's a very specific thing? It is like you're creating content in partnership with someone. Yeah. Do you think that's a part of it?
I do think that is a piece of it, is just having the right resources to dig into it and go a layer further because, in the old world, like you said, hey, I can slap together some pack shots and I've got creative that I can push out there on all my channels. But is it performing, right? And are you actually doing creative testing to understand what's resonating with your shoppers and kind of going that layer deeper? So I do think piece of it is, the resource constraint for some brands. And I think the piece that's now kind of a big unlock is just the partnership within retail media networks, the measurement that continues to improve. So yeah, I think there's a lot of upside and a lot of excitement for this as an area that's growing. And like you said, it's been here and a lot of brands are doing it, but how deep are they doing it?
All right, our next question. What performance metric gives you the ick? And I know there are. I've heard from other brand managers when a vendor comes and they show the specific metric, they go, yeah, okay, what else do you got? What is it? For me, I will tell you for me. It's earned media value and influencer, right? I can't keep my lights on in my house with earned media value.
We have $8 trillion. No, it's a great question. I mean, I touched already on the made up 60 times row.
Yeah,
that's certainly one, but let's say another one would be impressions without any type of additional performance to back it up. I showed this to 80 million people. Well, for how long? Was it a half of a second on 10% of the ad that was viewable? I I really need to understand the full journey to purchase, right? I want to see sales attribution, but at least get me further down the funnel. Impressions aren't going to get me there. I can't go back and sell that internally. We need to get through the journey, through click through carting, through purchase, understanding if there's new shoppers. So yeah, I think when I just see an impression number, it's like, okay, it's not 2005 anymore. When we can't sell that internally, it's a challenge for clients to sell that internally to their leadership.
Yeah, and then I hear you. Even if there's, let's say, the new product, you can't get sales, like incremental sales measurement. There's other indicators of success.
Absolutely, exactly.
And again, those could be defined very differently by different brands. But you expect to work with a partner that brings you something other than, are these impressions good? Where were they served?
Exactly. Get me a little further down there. Paint a little bit more of the story. And like you said, there are a lot of other ways to do that. We know we're not going to be able to get direct sales attribution in every situation, though that might be the desire. It's just get me closer to that, right? What are some of those other things that you can provide? Just impressions alone just feels, just
got it. I hear you. Awesome. All right, Rick. Well, we always end our podcast on a personal question. So I know a little bit about your personal life. I know that you're a new dad. I want to ask you a question. I think I spoke to you prior to having a child, and now you do have a child.
Yeah.
What would you have told Rick prior to being a dad that you would never have known before? Like, what's that message that you're telling yourself 2 years ago?
That's a great question.
Would get as much sleep as humanly possible.
Sleep is a real one. I would say it's staying flexible because, to the point of sleep, each phase you kind of think you've figured it out. You're like, all right, I've mastered it. All right, kids sleeping through the night. I got so much energy. I'm on top of the world. And then teething starts, or then walking starts, or, whatever the next thing is. So it's just being flexible and enjoying each phase, I think, is what I would have told myself.
You're to listen to yourself?
No, but I am in the boat of I will take any new parent advice still.
Toy that you were so happy someone told you about because you wouldn't have slept. Ours was that it was the giraffe. Did you get the giraffe that they can chew on?
We had apparently.
I guess so. That was the advice you should have gave yourself.
That's right.
A swing, anything that really you go, oh, thank God we found this thing.
Just like light up like noisemakers, like just like entertain him for 15 minutes. Like, oh, I'm pushing buttons and I'm loving life.
Inspire for any new products?
I'm taking him on shopping trips all the time. I got a little shopper marketer I'm training up, and
too. I walk around with my daughter, and I'll be like, "Oh, we did a program for them. What do you think about this?" But yeah, I mean, that's and that's the cool part about being a parent is you get to impart your wisdom onto them, and they are who you make of them, right? So if you spend the time and you're flexible and you're keeping them a part of everything, you're gonna have your interns shortly enough.
That's right. It's fun. We got Shopper Shuman in the making.
Can this promo like you wouldn't believe?
That's right.
Oh, that's awesome. That's right. Well, Rick, thank you so much. This has been so much fun, and could not be happier to have you on our podcast. So thank you so much, and good luck in everything that you do. And we'll see you next time on Creating Buzz.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.
Have a great one.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.